I'm Carrie Flower, and I have the pleasure of putting together our Lifestyle University classes for the season. And today in our cooking techniques class, we have Chef Keith Deakin, our executive chef here at Cal-Am, teaching us about kitchen countertop appliances. So I'm excited to see the class. I know there's a lot of appliances on the market today. We've taken some that have been most popular in the last few years, and we're going to highlight a Mexican meal with these appliances for you all. So I'm going to quickly just kind of mention what we'll be going over today, and then I'm going to have Keith come on and do his magic for us. But we are first going to be talking about pork carnitas and how to make that in a pressure cooker. A lot of you might know this as the Instant Pot, but there are a lot of different brands of pressure cookers on the market. So that is what they are. They're pressure cookers, and he'll give you the details of how that works. And that recipe will be for pork carnitas. Then we're going to do a steak that we're going to sous vide, which is a French term that Keith will be telling you about. And we're going to sear that off, cast iron skillet, I believe. And we're going to be doing a chimichurri sauce to put on our steak today. And I'm going through my list, which I hope you all got when you went to the link for your Zoom class. You all should have received this particular handout that you can print up and have for your home. Using an air fryer, we're going to do street corn on the cob, which is pretty popular here in the Southwest. So we're doing that recipe for you with an air fryer. And then we're going to end the day with a crock pot, and we're going to be just showcasing a tres leche bread pudding that was made ahead in our crock pot. So I've actually sampled it, and it's really yummy. So I hope you all have a chance to do that. So I think that's it. I think I've covered what we're going over today. I'm going to have Chef Keith come on, and we thank you for being with us.
Good morning, everybody. How you doing? As she says, I'm Chef Keith, and today we're going to go ahead and get started on our our pressure cooker. Pressure cookers are a pretty amazing invention. Colonel Sanders with Kentucky Fried Chicken is the one that came up with the idea many years ago on a better way to cook his chicken in a short period of time with the best results. But it took quite a while to actually perfect that. He had some mishaps. I did Google that years ago and figure out what he went through. And as you know, Kentucky Fried Chicken does it right. Their chicken's amazing. The pressure cooker, what it does is it cooks tough cuts of meat in a short period of time. So it breaks down any the meats that have a lot of collagen in them and or gristle type of stuff. It really won't break down silver skin though. Silver skin's there to stay. So we're going to get started with the pork today. I have the pork butt, and I was going to start cutting this up and dicing it, but I kind of wanted to show you in the instructions where it tells you to clean up your pork. There is some fat on the outside, but like I was saying, there's a little bit of silver skin that's going to be in there also. So we're just I'm going to remove just a little bit. I didn't think about this process until a little late in the game, sorry. But this is cut up because I had the bone in, and I had to remove that bone so I could dice it up for you guys. So we're just going to remove some of the fat. Of course, the fat will render out, but sometimes too much fat isn't a good thing because then it's just oily, and you don't want that. You don't want a real greasy carnitas. So I'm just carefully taking off some of that thin layer of the silver skin, and you can just disregard that. You can also go ahead and put your bone in with your pot, and you'll get all that nice flavor from your bone, the bone marrow. So we're just going to dice this up into 2-inch cubes. I believe I have this already set on sear on high. Today's technology when it comes to pressure cookers and countertop appliances, it's been pretty advanced. Starting back in the day when they did the first crock pots, all the way up to the type of stuff we're going to be talking about today. So if you see there's a little bit of silver skin in there, I'm just going to get rid of that too. And we're just going to set that aside while that warms up. I'm going to go ahead and continue dicing this up. And then you're going to want to sear this on all sides. And there's one of two things you can do with this. It takes a little bit less time if you cut it into kind of strips. And then you only have to sear kind of two sides instead of a bunch of little pieces. But before you return it back to the pot, when you deglaze with your beer and your orange juice, at that time you can go ahead and cut it up a little bit smaller. And really the only reason you're going to be cutting it up is so you don't have carnitas that eat like spaghetti. So you'll have real long shreds, and that's just not good to eat either. So I'm going to go ahead and dice this up just a little more, and I'll show you the differences between the two. I did already have some of this pressure cooking to save a little time, and you can see a finished product by the time the class is over, due to the fact that we're doing so many different appliances today. So about 1 to 2 inch pieces is what you're looking for. And again, that's going to give you your nice shorter shreds. That's going to be better to eat on your fajita, or if you serve it on tortillas. Over a nice pile of rice is really nice too with carnitas. I have a jalapeno here. It's all being cooked, so I'm not even going to bother changing my board or cleaning my knife. It's all going in the pressure cooker. But pressure cookers are pretty cool. They're pretty amazing. They cost way less than, say, having your oven on for 3 hours to break down a pork butt. You can do this in about an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. And again, your pressure cooker, the trick to that is making sure you have the liquid in there. The liquid is what's going to actually cook everything. High pressure. You definitely want to follow any instructions. They can be dangerous if you don't pay attention to what you're doing. So I feel my pot is nice and hot now. So we're going to go ahead and get that seared off and get this started so we can move on. And I believe next we're going to go ahead and do the chimichurri sauce. And then we'll go on to the corn. But I'm going to season this on all sides with some salt and pepper. But these save you a ton of money on electricity. It's like 250 volts of power when you turn on your oven. This takes 12 volts. So it's a pretty neat invention and very helpful. Also, in your recipe, you'll notice it states to go ahead and take your pork after it's shredded and dry it out in an oven. This way, I'm going to kind of show you a little bit where you would just use your air crisper. This particular style has an air crisper lid on it. So instead of turning on your very expensive oven, you'll be able to do the full dish in this one pot, which is pretty amazing. Years ago, you couldn't do that. You could have done this in a crock pot, but it's still going to take twice as long. It takes the same amount of time in a crock pot as it would in your oven. Again, just using less electricity. I remember when the crock pots first came out, my aunt had one, so we got her hand-me-down, and it was just amazing. All right, so this is my orange juice. We're going to go ahead and sear this up and get some color all the way around. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, I only did one side, so let's flip these over. A little more salt and pepper. Even immersion blenders are kind of cool thing nowadays. Instead of dirtying up your whole blender and then a bowl, do it all in one vessel, and saves you a little time cleaning up in the kitchen. Air fryer, that's another one. Really neat idea. So much less fat. They even have full-size ovens nowadays that they're designing with air fryers. All right, so what you want to hear is that. That's what you want to hear when you start putting your meat in there. Don't throw all this in at once, or you're just going to start to steam your meat. So we're just gonna do, so I'm gonna go ahead and throw one of the bigger pieces in there. A couple more small pieces. Does anybody here in the class, do you own a pressure cooker? Or this one actually does pressure cooker, air fryer, bake, roast, steam, slow cook, broil, saute, and dehydrate. And you can use it as a warmer. Does anybody have any of these appliances we're working with today? That's a question to the audience that's watching. Do we have any responses?
Not yet.
No? Okay.
Not yet. But we have a pressure cooker
Okay.
in our camper.
Should we send anybody a cup of coffee to wake up? I'm just joking with you guys. All right. So we're just going to give this quick sear, and then I'm going to set it aside over here.
Got a couple responses. One says no, one says yes
Okay.
so far.
And the one that says yes, do you have the one and all, like what I have with the air fryer crisper? It's an amazing, like one of the best inventions they ever had. I'm just wondering where it's going to go after this. Well, I'm actually going to let a little more color on there, but now that I'm starting a little color, oops, sorry. Now, this isn't going to get as hot as your stovetop. When it comes to the searing, you would have a little more color. Yeah, they can see inside there, right? Can you see this pork? Okay, so you see the little bit of color. Your stovetop will go a little bit faster, but this is so much less expensive. So just give it a little time.
We have a couple more responses. We got response, yes, we have our Instapot with us. Monica says, no, it's not like that one, but she has a 6 and 8 quart Instant Pot.
Okay.
And somebody else responded, they have an air fryer and an Instapot.
So no pressure cookers is what I'm hearing.
The Instapot
Instapot.
is a pressure cooker.
Is it?
It's a
Okay.
brand, yeah.
It's a brand.
See, I'm sorry, folks, I am not. I don't use these on a daily basis at all. To give you a little hint. This is my immersion blender. That's the type of product I use. And this is the little one we're going to demonstrate today. Just a commercial kitchen. And I don't do a lot of cooking at home either. Not anymore. I used to. So you can see that color. That's kind of what you're looking for right there. I'm going to see what we get here. Yeah, now we're getting somewhere. Now I'm going to add a couple more pieces. I'm probably going to have to hurry it up just a little bit because we are limited on time. So I'm going to pull a couple of these out that I just flipped. I do have a pot with finished products that I did earlier this morning. So you'll be able to see what the finished product is. So I know I tell you, don't dump everything in there at once. Well, I waited until I got a little more color, but I just want to move on to our next piece of equipment. Now, and then you're going to need your beer. And I forgot, it should naturally, got my can opener, so we have to. Okay, and this is what we're going to deglaze with, our orange juice and our beer. Now, typically, you'll have some brown bits on the bottom, but if you don't, that's fine because a lot of your flavor and color is actually on the meat. If you see in here, you'll start to see, you see that juice in there? That's some of the fat that's rendering out, which is, this is a non-stick. So it's not allowing a lot of brown bits at the bottom at this time. But when you open up your pressure cooker and it's done all cooking, you'll see some of the beautiful broth in the bottom. It's simply gorgeous. So I'm gonna go ahead and start pulling these other pieces out. They have some color. Or any of the students that are in the class today, or any of you, any of the residents that would be at our normal cooking class, where we have the students in the class? That's a question for the audience. All right. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and set this cutting board just to the side.
We have a couple of no's.
Nose. Okay. Well, if you're back next year, I'm pretty sure we're going to have a classroom for you to come see this live. And I've already pre-portioned all of my spices for the carnitas. I want to say pulled pork. Essentially same thing, just a Mexican version of it. A lot of people know pulled pork is barbecue, which, by the way, if you're at Tower Point, we'll see you tomorrow with 950 orders of pulled pork. All right, so at this time, I'm going to go ahead and pull some of this pork out. We're going to add our liquids. I'm only going to pull a couple more pieces out. Now we're going to add our liquid, a nice Dos Equis beer. You want a good flavored beer. It's going to add some really good flavor to your pork. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead in with your orange juice and your lime juice. Your jalapenos. Your garlic, your 5 cloves of garlic, chili powder, cumin, everybody in the pool, oregano, a little bit of black pepper. We know we seasoned the meat, but that's the meat. So you want to make sure you get seasoning in with your sauce, your finished sauce. I'm going to give that a quick stir. Then we're going to change the setting to pressure cook. You always want to make sure that your vent is closed on your pressure cooker. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and add all the pork back in there. Then we're going to set this aside. Let's do its magic. The lid. Okay, so here's your vent. A lot of you said that you are already familiar with the pressure cooker, the Instapot. So we're just going to turn that. Make sure the vent is closed. Pressure cook. High, 60 minutes. I'm actually going to go ahead and set it for an hour and 15 minutes. There we go. And then don't forget to hit start. I did this morning. And then notice it's not cooking. All right, so now it's going to do its magic. We're going to put this off to the side. Put this out of the way. You want to show the finished product?
Yes.
Right now?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So if you can see all that juice, that's lovely juice, all that great color in there. And then it should be super tender. You see how that just kind of shreds up? So that's pretty amazing to have that in an hour and 15 minutes. Normally it'd still be in the oven. You'd go golf and come back and it'd be done, you know? go shopping with the ladies. So yeah, that's unbelievable. So you would shred this up, and then you take some of that lovely juice that's at the bottom and mix that in with your pork, and that's where you're going to get your flavor. Personally, a lot of times what I'll do at the size batches I do is I will reserve and strain all my juices out. I'll bring it back to a simmer, and then I'll thicken it with a little cornstarch slurry. And that allows it to really hold on to your meat so it doesn't just sink to the bottom after you toss it. So we're gonna go ahead and set this off to the side. It's very good. Okay, and now we're gonna go into our next project, which is to make the chimichurri. Chimichurri is a nice Spanish or Mexican marinade sauce, whatever you'd like to use it for. So let me get this off of here. But you definitely have to like cilantro. It's typically half cilantro and half parsley. So I already have my my cilantro in there, or my parsley in there, sorry. And you don't have to mince this up or anything because your awesome little kitchen gadget here is going to do all that for you, but you want to give it a head start and just kind of give it a nice rough chop. And chimichurri, you can go super thin and use it as a marinade, or you can go nice and thick and chunky and use it as the topping. What I usually do is I'll blend it for a little bit, make it nice and chunky, reserve some, continue blending it so you can use it as the marinade. And I think I have a little too much right there, so we're just going to set this to the side. So red wine vinegar. Some salt and pepper. I might have to actually remind myself of the garlic, the shallots. Again, everybody in the pool, and then your immersion blender is going to chop everything. So red wine vinegar, and I know it's not in your recipe, but I am going to add a little oil to this. So there's your red wine vinegar. We're going to put just a little bit of oil, salt and pepper.
Kind of reminds me of making pesto too, a little bit.
Yeah, it's a Mexican pesto, essentially. You could add walnuts to this, or pecans if you want a little nutty flavor in the background, like pesto. Cotija cheese, which you see in the recipe for the street corn. That could be your cheese as opposed to your Parmesan cheese. The cotija is the Mexican version of kind of a feta cheese. All right, so that's how simple this recipe is going to be. And we're going to mix this and let it sit and meld together. So we're going to go ahead and chop the cilantro. I'm going to bring my little burner up and we're going to melt some butter. So to help the blender along, I'm going to pour a little oil in there. I should have doubled the batch. There we go. Really neat gadget though. I love these things. And it's actually the first time I've ever used one this small. Now, when I started my career, these were a very, very, very new thing. There wasn't even a lot of kitchens that had the immersion blender. We did it the old school way with regular blenders and food processors. So
A lot less cleanup, right?
a lot less cleanup. Just takes, a quarter of the time. Look, that's all you have to do right here is that off, that's all you're washing. You leave your product in your little vessel, well, or you're gonna marinate it in a bowl. Set that aside, let that refrigerate for like 15 minutes at least. And as it says, to meld together. I'm just gonna set this aside. How are we doing on time?
Got a half hour left,
Okay.
about.
Now this next product, I'm not gonna lie, I have not done a lot of air frying. Essentially, I use mine at home for soggy French fries when I get fast food. But I have a rationale. It's a big oven that I can do fried foods in, but a lot of time I'm cooking other stuff in there. But so let's just get this cleaned up, and then we're gonna go ahead and start with our street corn. Street corn is a really, really good stuff. I love it. In your recipe, you'll notice that it says you use sour cream, but you can also substitute mayonnaise. A lot of Mexican shops will substitute mayonnaise. The flavor and the cost, mayo is a little bit less expensive, but sour cream is going to give you that nice soury flavor. So let me get the corn out. And you don't want to do this recipe with frozen corn on the cob. You definitely want to wait till it's in season and get fresh corn on the cob. So here's our, at a restaurant I used to work at, we use this as an appetizer, and we cut these. This was one whole kernel or cob, and we cut them into fours, and we took a skewer and we put it through the top, and then we would put it on your plate. We had a long plate, and we put it on our plate and then decorate around it in some cilantro leaves. We had a really nice chipotle sauce that was served with it. So we're gonna go ahead and get started here. I hope everybody's having a good time here in Arizona. Getting away from the nasty weather I keep hearing about back home. If you're from them states that get that horrible, horrible snow. Okay, so while we're letting that reheat, we're gonna go ahead and give this a nice chop. So when I'm chopping stuff and I want it a little smaller, even though it is for more of a garnish, the smaller you start, the less work you got to do. You won't need very much, so we're just gonna, about right there. And I'm gonna give it a once through, once more. Went ahead and measured out my sour cream. We're going to use you can use your a knife or something. We're going to use this and spread it on our corn when it's done. You just need a little butter for the corn itself to get a little color. We're not going to use a lot. The whole purpose of your air fryer is to take the fat out of your diet. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull my door out, set that aside, and we're probably gonna get 3 comfortable corns in this one. No, I got it right here. Done. So we're gonna there's butter on there. Can't see very much. Just rolling it in the butter a little bit, and then we're gonna season it, and I'm gonna go ahead and put it in this air fryer. And while this is air frying, we're going to pull the sous vide over and let you see what that's all about. That's some really neat technology going on when it comes to sous vide, which in reference to sous vide, that is a fancy name in French for sealed bag. And I'll show you a little trick that I do when I sous vide stuff. So you don't need to spend extra money on a vacuum sealer if you do not already have one. Okay, so just in a few minutes, we're going to go ahead and roll that corn over with an air fryer, little oil, but you do have to stir stuff up. Even in the big one I just had here, you have to open it every now and again and stir it. Turns McDonald's French fries unbelievable. Okay, we're just going to set this aside here. We should talk a little bit about what this is, why that cooks. Now your sour cream and your cotija cheese is going to be just to finish your corn with, and as well as your cilantro. So we're just going to leave this over here. Has anybody heard or done anything with sous vide? Heard about it, used it. I know I was pretty excited to learn about it when they first came out. It's an amazing technology. You can cook, like it says in your book, precise temperature, very precise. So if you're one of those that just can't get the steak right on the grill, I got it for you. This is the thing.
The one person had said their son sous vides.
Oh, okay. Now, personally, I went and I bought a bunch of cookbooks when I first learned about it. And I like it personally for proteins. You can get your chicken breast perfectly cooked through. Don't have to worry about any blood, whether it's bone in, bone out, chicken breast, whatever it is. And you can have it cooked perfect. Your medium rare steak, perfect. I don't get sous videing a piece of a portion of asparagus for 30, 40 minutes or an hour. I don't quite understand that. Maybe some of your harder stuff like butternut squash, you can sous vide that and you can go al dente and then finish it in your pan like you'll see with the steak I'm going to demonstrate today. That's more useful, but there are recipes out there for sous vide asparagus. I can do that in 5 minutes in a pan. So I just don't recommend it for stuff like that. So I'm going to peek in. It's been a few minutes on the corn here. Yeah, we got some time there. So I'm going to pull this forward and we're going to pull this sous vide over. Here, we're just trade places altogether. And everybody can see this now?
No, yep.
Okay. Here's where our little clips that you would generally use to clip your proteins in the bag. So the idea of this device is it has a wand. This wand holds a temperature. You'll set your temperature and your time on here, and it will go for as long as you want to a very precise. So right now I have this steak that's been in there for about 2.5 hours. I cooked it to 130 degrees. And then when we finish, and it's called finishing. So you could sear this ahead of time, bag it, put it in your sous vide, but you won't get the same results. So I always recommend when it comes to sous vide is finish with it. Because going in the bag and then going in the water, you're going to lose some of that nice brown color on there, and it's not going to be nice and crispy either.
So, Chef, if I had let's say I had 30 friends, to come over for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Could I do the steaks ahead of time that method?
Absolutely.
And then just finish them on a grill?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, that's one of the best things about this. When I was at a steakhouse, we did our chicken that way. We would drop it down, we'd write the time on there, drop it down and set a 13-minute timer, and it was 165 degrees. You pull it out, you dab it dry, you'd sear it just for a second, and perfect, beautiful chicken. I've done this for, we have once a month pre-COVID, we would have manager meetings, and I did chicken in it, and I've done steak in it. It just takes a bigger vessel the more you have. So Carrie Flower supplied this today. She went out and she bought the neat little lid that comes with it. It comes with the container here. But generally what I usually do is either you'll saran wrap it. And what happens and why it needs a lid is your water is going to evaporate. And you don't want it to evaporate because, for one, it won't do its job and cook your steak or whatever protein you have in there, your fish. You can do scallops. But it won't rotate, and you don't want it to go below the water line because you'll ruin your unit. So this is a better way to keep your water from evaporating. But usually what I'll do is I'll put my unit in and put some tin foil around it just to protect it. There's another little trick with ping pong balls. You put ping pong balls all up in there, and believe it or not, it will slow the evaporation of the water out. But Carrie supplied us today with this neat little unit. It is I'm not quite sure what they run for anymore, but it's worth the money if you want your proteins to be absolutely perfect every time.
Yeah,
Yes.
question. So if I'm cooking the meat and it hits that temperature, can I still leave it in the water bath?
Absolutely.
longer
Yes.
And walk away?
It will never. So what I did when I first started learning about this is I packaged up, and I'm going to show you a little trick on the packing too. But I packaged up, I think it was like 8 fillets. I left them in the water bath. I'm not even joking, for about 48 hours. It will not cook any more than 125 degrees or whatever you set your temperature at.
Was your sous vide on all that time?
The sous vide was on all that
Left it
time.
on.
And all I did was I made sure that the water level did not drop below where it needs to drop. I had it on my counter. Again, this is when I first started doing this, so I was really interested and wanted to know what it did. And every single fillet that I seared off was beautiful medium rare all the way through. So tender, because what happens is it spends time in there and it starts to break down any kind of muscle and fat. You can season your meat ahead of time, like you see right here, with some rosemary. I got some garlic in there. You salt and pepper your meat. We're going to open this up and we're going to pat it dry. The most important part when you're doing this is making sure there's no moisture on your protein to get the color, or it's just going to steam and you're really not going to get a lot of color on it, and that texture. Before I go a little farther, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate the steak I do have. And show you the little trick I learned on how to close your bag up without needing your vacuum sealer. Oh, I heard the timer. So we're going to peek in and probably rotate this corner. Again, a lot less fat, so much more healthier for you. And you don't have to use butter even if you're wanting, to be on the healthier side, using oil. That's the one thing with air fryers is you get a much better result if you use a little bit of oil. You can do it without oil, but it won't look fried. It'll be kind of a pale color. So we're going to close this. We're going to set that for another. I went ahead and went 8 minutes. So I'm going to show you a little trick here, what I learned. So you have your bag. I'm using a freezer bag. And if you're ever doing this with just a regular Ziploc and not your food saver bag, that's what I did here, is you'll go ahead and salt and pepper it, which I've already done ahead of time. Add anything you want in here. I'm going to go ahead and put a couple pads of butter. I'll put a pat of butter. You don't have to really put it on top either because it's going to be in the hot water and just melt and surround it. And then when you drop whatever you're doing in here, the bag is going to, and filling it. And you just let it sink. let it sink, keep going down, and then now we have a sealed bag. So we're gonna just put that right back in there. I was using, the lid is convenient because you don't necessarily need to use the clip. I'm just storing it right under the clip. You don't wanna just drop this in there because what's gonna happen is this down here is circulating the water and you're gonna find your protein pushed up against your circulator and it won't let it circulate the water correctly. Don't get scared just because you're seeing this new technology. Buy one, try it out, read your recipe book that comes with it. They're really, really neat and convenient. And like I said, if you're that person that just can't get your perfect steak color or temperature, it is the way to go. And it takes so much less time to actually finish, which is what we're gonna do right now, is we're gonna scoop that aside. I have 2 cast iron skillets here. One flat and one like a grilling pan. You can use either one, but I'm gonna go ahead and use the flat cast iron skillet. And if anybody was in my last class, when we did the technique of searing and sauteing and what the differences were, remember I demonstrated that you want to use oil and butter when you're doing a high temperature type of stuff like this. So we're going to cut this open. We're going to pat it dry.
So if it's chicken or pork, same thing, you gotta just have it dry.
Yes, you want to always pat it dry no matter what, because it's just going to steam. If you're not worried about the color and the texture of having a nice crispy outside, then don't worry about it. But it's just going to be gray meat, not really appealing, and you get a lot of flavor from that nutty flavor from the crispness and the brownness of your meats. If you can braise also with your immersion circulator, but you have to bring the temperature up to at least 218 degrees is I believe when collagen and stuff like that is actually going to break down and make it tender. So we're going to go ahead and pull, I threw some sprigs of rosemary in there. We're just going to discard that. I'm going to go ahead and get my skillet started on high. What are we doing on time?
11:20.
Okay. So we're only a few minutes left, right?
About 12.
12, okay, because I still have a dessert.
We don't want to miss dessert.
No, we don't. That's the best part of the meal. I ruin my appetite all the time. But if you were to feel this, and when you get into this, it's so soft. You see that? It's just so soft. It's essentially cooked. You're just finishing it to give that nice color and that flavor. So you're going to want to pat this dry. And you want to get all that moisture out of there. Now here, I'm going to use, this is a lint-free rag. So microfiber. So we're just going to get all that moisture out of there. I'm going to hold this up one more time. I don't know if you guys can see this in the camera. Can you guys see that? You see how it's kind of loosened up right here? Can you see that? Can it be seen?
Yeah.
Can you? You see
You might be
that?
able
There
to.
you go. So you see that? It's already started to break the meat down. So that's what's going to make it super, super tender. And that's kind of the whole purpose. Precise cooking, but it's going to make a New York, it's going to be as tender as a filet mignon. All right, since we're running a little short on time, I'm just going to sear one of these off and show you the finished product. And then we're going to get into this lovely dessert that Carrie Flower cooked for me. She went ahead and did the dessert in the crock pot. And if you have time, let this just kind of even air dry. When I'm doing massive amounts of beef stuff like that. Or if I'm doing chicken marsala for like 500 people, I have my people lay them all on sheet pans and we'll let it air dry, and you get a much better color and result if you let it air dry. Okay, so we're gonna see, I see a little smoke coming off of our skillet, and that's what you want. But you're gonna wanna start with some oil. And then you're gonna go ahead with your butter. So I'm gonna go ahead and get it ready though. And if anybody was in the class for my last one where we were doing the special techniques and whatnot for your proteins, and we did a
Your first lesson.
yeah, the sauce, an au pois sauce. So you could do this same thing that we did and make your au pois sauce with your finished product, which would be a little cognac, some butter, a little bit of cream, peppercorns. So we're gonna coat our pan. Not too heavy, not too light. You don't want it real oily. Make sure you get it all over. And then always lay your protein away from you. Away from you. You hear that? And that's the sound you want to hear. And we're just going to let that cook a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and put our butter in there after I flip it over.
Is there a specific reason why you lay them away from you?
So the oil doesn't splash back on you, not even on your hand. So it's just a lot safer. Instead of going towards you, you always want to go away from you. Because burnt oil, it sucks. It's not as bad as simple syrup getting on you, but. So we're gonna peek in while we're doing that. We're gonna peek in. I'll move it to another, I'll let you see that. So you see how fast that's getting some really nice color? So I'm gonna go ahead and move it to another hot part of the skillet. We're gonna peek in on our corn timer. And there we go, look at there. So I'm gonna pull the corn out for a second. And we're gonna smear it with this sorry, I'm having brain farts today. With our sour cream, our tortilla cheese, but before I do that, it's gonna be time to flip this over. Look at that. Such a nice sear on there. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add the butter. See how it even, it started to brown this fat there, the fat. So now we're gonna go ahead and finish it with the butter. We'll let that cook away. We're gonna go ahead and take our corn over here. We're gonna crumble up some of the tortilla cheese. Really nice flavor on this cheese. I love this cheese. So I'm gonna turn this down just a tiny bit. So you want to take your pastry brush or whatever you'd like. You're gonna smear the sour cream on there like that, not too heavy. It's essentially a little flavor, and it's with the glue for the cheese, the stick. And then we're gonna roll that right in that cheese. Set that aside. Like I said, you can put a skewer in that, and your guests can walk around with a corn cob lollipop. That's what it was called on our menu, is corn cob lollipop. Whoops. See, you need your sour cream. But my steak is gonna overcook, so we're gonna pull that out also and just let that rest. If you remember also in the class I did, it takes about 5 to 10 minutes for your steak to finish, but you want to let it rest for a good 5 minutes. Letting a steak or a roast rest is one of the most important things when it's all done. So I'll roll that one in the cheese.
Could you just do that with melted butter?
It won't stick here or the steak.
The corn.
The corn, no, it won't stick. It won't stick very well anyways. If you're on a diet and you don't want so much cheese, then yes. But once you taste all these elements together, if you haven't had street corn before, you're gonna, wow, I don't want any more corn other than that. I love it. It's really one of my favorites. There's more going on there. There's gonna be some chili and some garnish with a little cilantro.
You're okay.
You're good.
Okay, so just a little bit of chili powder. You can use paprika. It's not just for color, it helps, but it's also for that flavor. And you could use cumin if you like, if you really like cumin. Some people don't care for it too much. I love it. But your cotija cheese, while it's warm, just sticks. Oh my gosh, this is just some really, really good stuff if you've never had it. So like that, and then we're gonna, whatever sticks, you can chop this up even smaller, you can rub it on there. We're just gonna roll it and let whatever stick stick. So there you go, you have your Mexican street corn. Oh my goodness, so delicious. All right, and now we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna let this steak rest a little bit longer, and so we can get into the desserts. Mary did such a nice job on this pudding.
Very easy recipe.
Very easy recipe. A lot of crock pot recipes that I'm sure a lot of you have used it once, twice, 3 times, or 50 or more. And I say that because you guys are much older than I am. I'm your grandson. So we're gonna go ahead and move our crock pot a little closer. God, it smells great. You guys smell that? Oh my goodness. So we're gonna
There's
wanna.
a glass bowl for you.
Yeah, a glass bowl.
It's right there.
Oh, right in front of me.
They're right in front.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do, and I was actually, we were talking a little bit about this bread pudding. If you actually let it cool off, not necessarily out of the crock pot, but if you're familiar and you do make bread pudding, one time when I was much younger, we turned it into an ice cream sandwich, but cold. We let it chill out, we sliced it down the middle, we put ice cream in there, put our caramel sauce on there, and just, and we had ice cream sandwiches. Okay, so we're just gonna scoop some of this out of here. And tres leche is a really big dessert, the tres leche cake. So we're just gonna some of those top there. And then you can go a little ice cream in there, apple in there. Now, this recipe is from your the pamphlet that you guys have, but it was doubled,
so
it is kind of a lot. I think Carrie just wanted to go home and do some
Make another
some
batch.
caramel shots, you know, when she's at home on the couch tonight. Just joking. It's that good though. So you see that? Oh, it's so thin. Now watch it pour. She did such a great job on this. There you go. Okay. And a nice scoop of ice cream. I should have maybe brought a couple cherries or sliced apples you could put on there for a little crunch. Some fresh apple slices, nice and thin. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and slice this steak up. One more plate right there, so I have somewhere to put that. The one thing a little different is if anybody has ever seen me or a professional cook steaks, is we use our fingers to tell the temperature. This does make it a little bit difficult if you're doing that. It feels perfect medium rare right in here, a little bit tougher, but we're gonna slice it up and see what we have here. Now I'm gonna go with a little bit of bias. So this was in the immersion circulator for pretty much 2.5 hours. And if you can see that, can you guys see that?
Let's see, hold it, go up towards this camera here. There you go, a little bit lower. There,
Can you see that color in there?
Medium rare.
yeah.
That is a perfect medium rare. You see the amount of juice after we sliced it that's left on the cutting board? That's the importance of letting your your meats rest. That is the importance, whether this is chicken breast, a pork chop. Of course, you're gonna cook your chicken breast more, not medium rare. All right, well, we're gonna go ahead and slice this up.
Chimichurri sauce is in the fridge.
The chimichurri sauce is in the fridge. Thank you, Carrie, for reminding me that. But if you see all that color, it's so good. It's so tender. Now watch. From end to end, medium rare.
Oh my gosh.
So it's unbelievable. Now, if we weren't in such a hurry and I wanted to give it more color, I would have laid the steak straight up in the saute pan and rendered some of that fat off and gotten some really nice color, because I don't like pale fat, but once it has some color and a little crisp to it, oh my gosh, it's so delicious. All right, and then we're gonna go ahead and put that on our plate. See, very little juices, very little. If you didn't let that rest, it wouldn't have stayed medium rare. It would have all bled out. And yeah, you would have just kind of ruined the whole process. All right, we're gonna stretch that out a little bit. Put some of our chimichurri sauce on there. And you can go right on your steak. Or you can get all fancy with your guests and you do the thing that you see on the TV shows, you know, put a nice little puddle there and then do the swoop. And then you got your corn. Someone might. You got your corn. There, whoops. And there we go, folks. Your sous vide New York strip, chimichurri sauce, and your Mexican street corn, along with your lovely bread pudding. Now it's time for you guys to go have lunch. Okay. Well, thank you all. Thanks for joining the class today. I hope you learned a little bit about these appliances. Don't be scared of the sous vide. I know you're going, oh, no. Give it a shot. If you don't like it, gift it. Well, thanks you all. You have a great day and we'll see you around.
Everybody says thank you.
Thank you, Keith.